My name is Iris Paxton. I'm 29 years old, and until last year, I truly believed that if you stayed calm, communicated clearly, and loved someone consistently, you could prevent disaster. That belief didn't shatter in one dramatic moment. It cracked slowly, like a hairline fracture you ignore until the whole thing finally splits. I live in Denver. I work as an operations coordinator for a logistics company, the kind of job people don't romanticize but secretly rely on. I track shipments, solve problems before they become fires, and keep a dozen moving parts from colliding. It's not glamorous, but it rewards people like me. Organized, steady, and quietly stubborn. I own a 2-bedroom condo I bought 2 years ago after a promotion. Nothing fancy, just a decent place in a decent neighborhood. The second bedroom is my home office and a half-hearted gym, standing desk. I assembled myself, basic weight bench, and a yoga mat that mostly exists to make me feel like I'm trying. I drive a sedan I maintain religiously. Oil changes on schedule, tires rotated, dash cam installed. It's the same way I handle everything. If it's mine, I take care of it. That's what Daniel said he admired about me. We met in early 2023 through a running group. I joined because my doctor suggested more cardio, and apparently, briskly walking to the fridge didn't count. The group met twice a week at a park near downtown. Everyone wore coordinated gear, like they were auditioning for a fitness ad. I showed up in old shorts and a t-shirt that had survived several moves. Daniel stood out, not because he was loud, but because he was controlled. He had that polished calm some people carry like armor. Even his water bottle looked expensive. After a brutal hill workout, most people scattered, but Daniel stayed behind to stretch. He asked what I did for work and actually listened, which was rare. Most people heard logistics, and their eyes glazed over like I'd just started reciting terms and conditions. He didn't. He asked thoughtful questions, follow-up questions, the kind that made me feel seen, not for how entertaining I was, but for how my brain worked. Daniel was an academic advisor at a university, smart, organized, ambitious. He talked about helping students plan their futures with this earnest confidence, like he genuinely believed structure could save people. He also complained about bureaucracy, with the simmering resentment of someone who wanted control but had to answer to systems bigger than him. We exchanged numbers. Texting started with running routes and pace times, then slipped into everything else. Documentaries, travel ideas, which people at parties were secretly exhausting. It felt easy, clean, like two planners finding peace in each other. Our relationship moved fast in that responsible adult way. Weekend hikes, grocery runs that turned into cooking nights. He liked that I knew how to make something besides instant noodles. I liked that he never forgot details, like my coffee order, or how I hated small talk, or that I got quiet when I was overwhelmed. 8 months in, Daniel suggested we move in together. He didn't call it moving in. He called it a compatibility trial period. 2 weeks at my place, 2 weeks at his. Then we'd evaluate and proceed. I remember laughing when he said it, thinking it was quirky, endearing even, like he took us seriously. What I didn't recognize yet was the pattern. Daniel didn't just plan his life. He managed it, controlled it, optimized it. And once he decided something was best, he tended to treat agreement as a formality. Moving in turned into a full project. He made lists for furniture placement, suggested we try 3 different living room configurations to see what felt most efficient. He reorganized my kitchen because he had strong opinions about where everything should go. He woke up at 5:30 every morning to do yoga while listening to productivity podcasts, then made smoothies with recipes he'd optimized for maximum nutrition. At first, it was almost impressive. Then it started to feel invasive. I'd wake up and find my lunch packed with a sticky note, eat at 12:15, meeting at 2:00, don't forget water. People would call that sweet, thoughtful. But sometimes, standing there holding the container he'd labeled for me, I'd get this strange sensation, like my life was being edited without my permission. Still, things were good for almost a year. We were functional, stable, the kind of couple friends described as solid. If I had complaints, they were small. Daniel could be rigid. He could be dismissive when my choices didn't match his idea of optimal. But we didn't fight much. We didn't scream. We didn't do dramatic. I thought that meant we were safe. Then January 2024 arrived, and Daniel dropped the kind of news that changes your relationship permanently, whether you admit it or not. We were at a Thai restaurant he loved, the one where he always ordered pad Thai and insisted on controlling the spice level for both of us, because he thought I underestimated my tolerance. He'd been quieter all week. I assumed work stress, student drama, the usual. He pushed his food around his plate and said casually, "I applied for a professional exchange program abroad." I brightened instantly. "That's amazing. Where?" "Spain," he said, finally looking at me. 6 months. May through October. My brain started doing math. 6 months apart wasn't nothing, but it was manageable. We could video chat. I could visit. We'd make it work. "That's huge," I said. "When do you find out?" "Next Friday," he answered, and something in his voice felt rehearsed, like he was reading from a script he'd practiced alone. I took a sip of water. "Okay, I'm proud of you." He nodded, then added, too quickly, like ripping off a bandage, "I've also been thinking about the long-distance part." My stomach tightened. "What about it?" Daniel reached across the table and placed his hand over mine. His touch was warm. His expression was gentle. His delivery was calm enough to make the words sound reasonable, even when they weren't. "I think we should see other people while I'm gone." I stared at him. Not because I didn't understand the sentence, but because my mind refused to accept that the man who color-coded calendars and meal prepped like an Olympic sport was proposing an open relationship like it was the most logical solution in the world. "You're not saying break up," he clarified. "Just take a break from exclusivity so neither of us feels held back. No sneaking around. No guilt. Then when I come home, we pick up where we left off." I sat there for a long moment, forcing my face neutral. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. The worst part wasn't the request. It was how planned it felt. The restaurant choice, the timing, the calm voice, the way he framed it like personal development instead of what it actually was, permission to do what he already wanted to do. "And if I say no?" I asked. Daniel squeezed my hand slightly. "Then I'd respect that," he said smoothly. "But I'd still go, and we'd try long distance. I just think this is more honest." There it was. Not really a choice, just a test. Would I sign off, or would I force him to be the bad guy? I pulled my hand back slowly and leaned into my chair, watching him watch me. He looked composed, but there was something underneath, anticipation, like he expected me to react. Cry? Argue? Beg him not to? And suddenly, a memory flashed through my mind, something my older sister once told me when we were teenagers, after a friend tried to manipulate her into apologizing for something she didn't do. The best response to a power move is calm agreement, and then quiet action. Daniel thought he was setting the rules. He thought he was giving me a controlled option. What he didn't realize, what he couldn't imagine, was that I knew exactly how to operate inside a system once I understood its logic. So I did the last thing he expected. "Okay," I said. Daniel blinked. "Okay?" I nodded, kept my voice even. "You're right. 6 months is a long time. If you want it open, we'll keep it open." For a split second, his expression flickered. Something like surprise mixed with disappointment, like I'd ruined the emotional script he'd prepared for. He recovered quickly. "Good," he said, almost too fast. "I think this will be healthy." I forced a small smile. "When do you find out again?" "Next Friday," he repeated. "Cool," I said. "Let me know." We finished dinner, and Daniel kept looking at me like he was waiting for the delayed explosion. He didn't get it. I paid the check, drove us home, and went to bed with my thoughts lined up like dominoes. Because the moment I said okay, something else clicked into place. If Daniel wanted freedom, he'd get it. But he wasn't going to be the only one living like the rules applied differently to him. And if he expected me to stay exactly where he left me, waiting, available, obedient, he was about to learn the most dangerous thing about a woman like me. Once I decide to move on, I don't do it halfway. The strange thing about agreeing to something you never wanted is how quiet everything becomes afterward. Daniel expected tension, mood swings, questions, late-night talks where I circled the same fears until he felt reassured that I was still emotionally tethered to him. Instead, I went still. Not cold, not distant, just contained. Daniel got into the program, of course he did. When he told me, his excitement was controlled, but unmistakable, like someone who'd just had their 5-year plan validated by the universe. Within hours, he was researching neighborhoods in Madrid, comparing housing options even though the program provided accommodations. He made spreadsheets, multiple ones, cost of living, commute times, backup plans for his backup plans. He was already mentally gone. That should have hurt more than it did. But something about the open relationship conversation had shifted my internal axis. It was like my emotional loyalty had been unplugged, not ripped out, just cleanly disconnected. I still cared about Daniel, but I was no longer orienting my decisions around him. And for the first time since we'd moved in together, my life felt spacious. I stopped doing the emotional labor I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. I didn't plan date nights. I didn't suggest weekend activities. I didn't manage our shared calendar or remind him about groceries. If Daniel wanted something, he had to initiate it. He didn't notice at first. He was too busy preparing for Spain, language apps, cultural podcasts, endless articles about immersive professional growth. Every conversation somehow looped back to Madrid. Every plan was temporary now, a placeholder until his real life resumed, overseas. Meanwhile, I started preparing in my own way. The first thing I did was update my dating profiles. I hadn't touched them since Daniel and I got serious, but they were easy enough to reactivate. I asked my friend Leah, who moonlighted as a photographer, to take a few new pictures of me. Nothing curated, no dramatic poses, just me in my element, relaxed, laughing, looking like someone who actually liked her life. The second thing I did was reclaim my time. I joined a climbing gym I'd been curious about for months. I signed up for a weekly trivia night at a brewery near work. Not because I was desperately trying to meet someone, but because I wanted to exist in spaces that weren't built around Daniel's preferences. The climbing gym surprised me. It wasn't competitive in the way I'd expected. People talked, helped each other, laughed when they fell. The physical problem-solving appealed to me, but more than that, it felt good to struggle in a space where no one was tracking my efficiency. Daniel noticed the changes about 3 weeks in. "You've been busy lately," he said one night while we were half watching a documentary. He was scrolling through Spanish real estate listings on his tablet. "I guess," I said lightly. "Gym, friends, work stuff." "You seem kind of detached," he added, glancing at me sideways. I met his gaze. "Isn't that what you wanted? Independence?" He frowned, clearly irritated by his own logic being reflected back at him. "I just didn't think it would feel like this." "Like what?" "Like we're already apart." We were. He just hadn't realized it yet. April felt like living with a roommate you used to love. We existed in parallel lines, close enough to touch, but never intersecting. Daniel practiced Spanish. I cooked dinner for one. He talked about flamenco classes. I made plans with people he'd never met. 2 weeks before his departure, everything changed. I matched with Noah on Hinge. His profile was understated. Wry humor, thoughtful prompts, photos that looked like real moments instead of curated highlights. He worked in urban planning and had recently moved to Denver for a fresh start after ending a long-term relationship. We started texting, and the conversation flowed in a way that felt unforced. No performative banter, no subtle testing, just honest curiosity. Noah suggested coffee before Daniel left. I hesitated for exactly 3 seconds before agreeing. We had rules now. I was just following them. We met at a small cafe in Capitol Hill on a Sunday afternoon. Daniel was at a farewell brunch with his colleagues. Another carefully orchestrated send-off. Noah showed up in jeans and a worn jacket, his smile easy and unguarded. He admitted right away that he was bad at first meetings. "I tend to overshare when I'm nervous," he warned. "Perfect," I said. "I'm great at asking questions." We talked for 3 hours. About bad roommates, career mistakes, the pressure to have everything figured out by 30. He listened in a way that wasn't strategic, didn't interrupt, didn't optimize the conversation. When he laughed, it was full-bodied, unrestrained. When we hugged goodbye, something warm and unexpected settled in my chest. At home, Daniel was already packing toiletries into labeled containers. "How was brunch?" I asked. "Good," he said absently. "Everyone's excited for me." "Yeah," I replied. "They should be." He didn't ask about my day. May 3rd arrived faster than I expected. I drove Daniel to the airport at 4 in the morning. He triple-checked his luggage weight, had backup printouts for digital documents, and kissed me goodbye like someone leaving a well-organized project behind. "We'll video call every week," he said, "and you can text anytime." "Have a safe flight," I replied. He walked through security without looking back. I sat in the parking garage afterward, breathing through the silence. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Noah. "Free this weekend?" He responded within minutes. "Absolutely." Daniel thought 6 months meant stasis. He thought openness meant pauses, not progression. What he didn't understand, what he never had to understand before, was that once I started choosing myself, momentum did the rest. And I wasn't slowing down for anyone anymore. Spain changed Daniel. At least that's how he framed it. On our first video call after he arrived, he angled the camera to show me sunlit streets, tiled rooftops, and cafe tables crowded with laughing strangers. He looked relaxed in a way I hadn't seen before, lighter, almost unburdened. "This place is incredible," he said, grinning. "Everyone's so alive here." I smiled back, genuinely happy for him, or maybe just relieved that his excitement no longer dictated my emotional temperature. "That's great," I said. "I'm glad you're enjoying it." He launched into stories about his cohort, the program structure, the cultural immersion sessions. I listened, asked questions, responded appropriately. I was good at that. I always had been. But something was different. When Daniel paused, waiting for me to fill the silence with reassurance, I didn't. "So," he said eventually, brow creasing slightly, "what's new with you?" I thought about my week, about Wednesday nights with Noah, stretched out on my couch with takeout containers between us, talking until the city lights blurred outside the window. About the climbing gym, where my arms ached and my mind felt clear. About how my condo, my space, felt peaceful again. "Work's been busy," I said. "I've been going to the gym more, seeing friends." Daniel nodded slowly, like he was mentally filing that away. "Anyone specific?" There it was. I met his gaze through the screen. "We agreed not to interrogate each other." "I'm not interrogating," he said quickly. "I'm just curious." "Curiosity is still pressure," I replied calmly. He frowned, clearly unsettled by how easily I pushed back now. The calls continued like that for weeks. Daniel talked. I listened. He asked questions. I answered, truthfully but vaguely. He showed me museums. I told him about a trivia night win. He mentioned how nice it was to have people around him all the time. I said I understood. In June, he casually dropped a name. "There's this woman in my program," he said, like he was mentioning a classmate. "Lucia. She's from Barcelona. We've been exploring the city together." I waited. "She's been helping me with Spanish," he added, "showing me places locals go." "That's great," I said. "Sounds helpful." He watched my face carefully, searching for something. Jealousy, maybe. Hurt. Possessiveness. He didn't find it. "Don't you want to know more?" he asked. "Not really," I replied. "We're seeing other people, right?" "Yes," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Of course." After that call, something shifted. Daniel started messaging more, checking in unexpectedly, asking what I was doing, who I was with. He framed it as interest, but it felt like surveillance, subtle, polite, persistent. Meanwhile, my relationship with Noah deepened in ways that felt both thrilling and terrifying. We never labeled anything at first. We didn't need to. We saw each other 3, sometimes 4 times a week, cooked together, argued lightly about music, walked through neighborhoods just to see where our conversations took us. Noah didn't manage my time or optimize my routines. He didn't leave notes or suggest improvements. He listened. He laughed. He showed up when he said he would. By July, he had a toothbrush at my place. I had a drawer at his. One night, after we'd spent the day hiking and were sprawled on my couch watching a nature documentary neither of us was really paying attention to, Noah turned serious. "I need to ask you something," he said. My stomach dropped. I muted the TV and sat up. "Okay. I'm falling for you," he said simply, "and I need to know if I'm walking into something messy." I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. "You're not a rebound," I said, "and you're not a distraction, but there is unfinished business." His jaw tightened slightly. "Another man." "Yes," I admitted, "but not in the way you're thinking." I explained the situation. Daniel, Spain, the open relationship, the agreed timeline. I didn't sugarcoat my own mistakes or my delayed honesty. Noah listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. "So," he said slowly, "you're technically still together." "Technically," I agreed, "but emotionally, I'm not." He leaned back, exhaling. "That's a lot." "I know," I said. "And if that's too much, I'll understand." He studied me for a long moment. "Are you planning to end it?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I just need to do it cleanly. Soon." "How soon?" "Before he comes back." Noah nodded. "Okay." That one word carried more trust than I deserved, but I felt the weight of it settle on my shoulders. Daniel's calls grew shorter in August, then more intense. He looked happier, more confident. He talked about weekend trips with Lucia, about shared jokes, about how easy things felt. Then, one night, the tone changed. "I saw her kiss someone else," Daniel said during a late call, his voice tight. I stayed quiet. "At a bar," he continued, right in front of me. "I thought you were just friends," I said gently. "We were," he insisted. I thought we were." I waited. "It hurt," he admitted, "seeing her with someone else." The irony was almost unbearable. "Daniel, I said carefully. You asked for this. I know, he snapped, but it's different. Different how? Because I have feelings, he said. There it was. So do I replied calmly. Silence stretched between us. You're seeing someone, he said finally. Not a question. Yes. How serious? Serious enough that I won't pretend this is temporary. His face tightened. You weren't supposed to move on. I almost laughed. I did exactly what you suggested, I said. You just didn't expect it to work out this way. A few days later, he dropped the bomb. I'm thinking about coming home early. My blood ran cold. Daniel, I said slowly, that's not a good idea. Why not? He pressed. Don't you miss me? I thought about Noah's quiet presence, the way my home felt full again, the certainty blooming where confusion used to live. This isn't something you can fix by showing up, I said. He leaned closer to the camera. We need to talk about us. I agree, I replied, but not like this. The call ended unresolved, tension humming beneath every word left unsaid. I knew then that the illusion was cracking. Daniel had wanted freedom without consequences. He just didn't realize that consequences had already chosen a side. And when he finally stepped back into my life, unannounced and unprepared, everything he thought he controlled was going to unravel, publicly. The first sign that Daniel was already on his way back came at 2:17 a.m. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, vibrating softly against the wood. Noah was asleep beside me, one arm slung loosely over my waist, breathing slow and even. I carefully slid out from under him and padded into the living room, heart already pounding. Daniel's name lit up the screen. Can we video call? I really need to talk. I stared at the message longer than I should have. Some part of me already knew this wasn't just emotional turbulence. This was escalation. I accepted the call. Daniel's face filled the screen, pale and tense. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept. What's wrong? I asked. I can't do this anymore, he said immediately. The distance, the uncertainty, I thought I could handle it, but I can't. I waited. I'm coming home, he said. Early. I've already talked to the program director. I can leave next week. My stomach dropped. Daniel, I said carefully, you shouldn't make decisions like this in the middle of an emotional spiral. This isn't a spiral, he snapped. This is me realizing I made a mistake. I took a slow breath. Coming home doesn't undo anything. It could, he insisted, if we actually talk, face to face, like adults. We have talked, I said, multiple times. Not like this, he said, voice rising. Not when you're hiding things from me. Before I could respond, movement caught my eye. Noah stood in the hallway, half awake, wearing one of my t-shirts. He froze when he saw my phone. Daniel saw him too. The screen went very, very still. Who's that? Daniel asked quietly. I closed my eyes for half a second, then I said the truth. That's the man I told you about. Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. I'll call you back, I said, and ended the call before Daniel could speak again. Noah didn't yell. That somehow made it worse. So, he said, crossing his arms, that's him. Yes. And he's coming back. He wants to, I corrected. I told him it was a bad idea. Noah nodded slowly. But he's not exactly known for respecting boundaries, is he? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Are you ending it? He asked. I already have, I said. He just hasn't accepted it yet. Noah studied my face for a long moment. I need you to be very clear with him. Not later. Not eventually. Now. I will, I promised. I meant it. I just didn't expect Daniel to beat me to it. 3 days later, at exactly 3:04 p.m. on a Friday, my doorbell rang. Then rang again. Then someone started knocking, hard, urgent, insistent. I looked through the peephole. Daniel stood on my porch with 2 suitcases, hair disheveled, eyes blazing with determination, like this was a grand romantic gesture instead of a complete violation of every boundary I'd set. I opened the door but didn't step aside. What are you doing here? I asked. Surprising you, he said, smiling like this was something out of a movie. I came home early, to fight for us. There is no us, I said calmly. His smile faltered. Don't say that. We've been together almost 2 years. You don't throw that away because of a misunderstanding. This wasn't a misunderstanding, I said. It was a choice, several of them, and you made yours. Because you weren't supposed to replace me, he snapped. I didn't replace you, I replied. I moved on. He stepped closer. Because of him. I moved on because of me. Daniel looked past me into the condo. Is he in there? That's none of your business. I want to talk to him. No. His expression shifted rapidly. Confusion, hurt, anger, like a storm cycling through emotions too fast to control. You can't just lock me out, he said. I lived here. You lived here, I corrected. Then you left and asked for an open relationship. This is the result. His voice rose. "You're being cold. This isn't like you. You don't get to define who I am anymore." That's when he lost it. He started yelling about betrayal, about wasted years, about how I was throwing everything away for someone I barely knew. His voice echoed down the street. Curtains shifted in neighboring windows. My neighbor, Mr. Hargreave, the retired widower who watered his roses every afternoon, stepped onto his lawn. "Everything all right over here?" he called. "Yes," I said calmly. "Just an ex who won't accept what X means." Daniel spun toward him. "We're not broken up. We were on a break." Mr. Hargreave looked at Daniel, then at me. "Son," he said dryly, "if you have suitcases and she's standing in the doorway telling you to leave, I think that ship's sailed." Daniel's face flushed crimson. "I'm leaving," he said sharply, grabbing his suitcases. "But this isn't over." "It is," I replied. "You're just late to that realization." He dragged his bags down the walkway, shooting me one last furious look before climbing into a rideshare that pulled away far too quickly. The street went quiet. Mr. Hargreave gave me a sympathetic nod and returned to his roses. I closed the door and leaned against it, heart pounding, but not from fear. From relief? For the first time in months, there was no ambiguity left. No plans, no spreadsheets, no future versions of me, waiting patiently for someone else to decide what I deserved. I texted Noah. He showed up. "It's over. Completely." He replied almost immediately. "I'm on my way." And as I stood in my quiet living room, the echoes of Daniel's meltdown already fading, I realized something important. Boundaries don't always look dramatic when you set them, but they almost always look dramatic to the people who benefited from you not having any. Daniel didn't go quietly. I should have expected that. He never had, not really. Even his calm was strategic, measured to keep control. Losing it publicly on my front lawn was just the part I got to witness. The rest happened behind screens. That night, after Noah arrived with takeout and quiet reassurance, my phone started lighting up. Messages from numbers I recognized and a few I didn't. Daniel's friends, mutual friends, people who'd been in our living room, eaten food at our table, commented on how put together we were as a couple. The narrative spread fast. I'd blindsided him. I'd cheated. I'd used the open relationship as an excuse to monkey branch into something easier. I'd let him come home thinking we could fix things. None of it included the part where Daniel had proposed seeing other people in the first place. None of it mentioned that he'd decided the terms unilaterally and expected me to wait obediently while he explored another life. His best friend Mason sent the longest message. "I never thought you'd do something like this. Daniel's devastated. He came home for you. The least you could have done was talk to him." I read it once, then again. Then I put my phone face down on the counter and didn't reply. Noah watched me quietly from the couch. "You're not going to defend yourself?" he asked. I shook my head, not to people who've already decided what they want to believe. That was the thing I'd learned the hard way. Explanations don't change minds that benefit from misunderstanding you. I blocked the numbers from Daniel's inner circle. The mutual friends got a simple response when they reached out. "It's private and complicated. I appreciate you checking in." Nothing more. Noah didn't push. He never did. He just stayed, cooked dinner with me, sat beside me while we watched terrible reality TV. Let the noise pass without making it louder. A week later, Daniel finally called. I answered. He didn't yell this time. His voice was flat, brittle. "You didn't have to humiliate me," he said. "I didn't," I replied. "You did that yourself. You moved on while I was gone." "You asked me to." "I didn't think you actually would," he said. There it was, the truth stripped of pretense. "You thought I'd wait," I said, "that I'd stay exactly where you left me." "Yes," he admitted, almost whispering. "I thought you loved me." "I did," I said. "That doesn't obligate me to shrink." He accused me of cheating, of lying, of replacing him. I didn't argue. I didn't justify. I didn't circle the same ground we'd already burned. "I'm done, Daniel," I said. "This conversation, too." He hung up without saying goodbye. That was the last time we spoke. The fallout continued for a while. Group chats I never saw, opinions I didn't hear directly. I let them exist without me. Life has a way of correcting false narratives eventually, especially when you stop feeding them. A month later, I ran into Mason at the grocery store. He looked awkward, hesitant. "Hey," he said, I owe you an apology." I raised an eyebrow, but stayed quiet. "Daniel told us a different version of things," he admitted. "We didn't know he asked for the open relationship first." "That tends to change the story," I said. "Yeah," he sighed. "I'm sorry for the messages." "It's fine," I replied, and I meant it. "You were being a good friend, just not to me." He nodded and moved on. That was it. No dramatic reconciliation. No vindication speech, just acknowledgement. Meanwhile, Noah and I kept building something real. Not fast, not reckless, just steady. He met my friends, fit in effortlessly. He didn't try to impress them or perform. He asked questions, remembered details, showed up. In January, his lease ended, and we didn't make a big deal about him moving in. He just did. Brought his books, his plants, his quiet habits. My condo changed, became warmer, lived in. Paintbrushes on the counter, his jacket draped over a chair. It felt like a home, not a project. One night, months later, as we sat on the balcony, watching the city settle into evening, Noah took my hand. "I know I walked into something complicated," he said, "but I'm glad I did." "So am I replied. Daniel left for another program a few months after that. Portugal, I heard. Still chasing structure somewhere new. Still believing the right environment would fix what control couldn't. I didn't wish him harm. I just stopped carrying him. Looking back, the open relationship wasn't what ended us. It was the assumption beneath it, the belief that I would remain static while he evolved. He wanted freedom without risk. I chose growth with consequences. And the funny thing about taking someone at their word is this. Sometimes the most powerful response